Well, hello there. I am, yeah. I can never hear myself through the monitoring. Welcome, everybody. I gotta tell you something. I did something weird last night with the stream, which was I was streaming it on OBS, but with OBS, I can't pop up your guys' awesome comments and stuff, which is what I wanted to do in the after show. So what I did was during the stream, I opened up StreamYard here and then clicked go live here. And I was like, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen. But it was working. So I shut down the OBS stream. But then when the whole thing was said and done on YouTube, for the first like hour or so, maybe not hour, maybe more like half hour, when you clicked to watch the debate, it was only showing the debate from when I activated StreamYard. I was like, no. I had a way where I could, Taco said I could just rip it from his channel and repost it on mine. But, that would take a long time. It was a 4-hour video. And so I'd have to wait for that and then edit it a little bit and then upload it. So I was really worried about that, but apparently it fixed itself. So there we go. Turn the light on. I mean, okay. There we go. I have a really cool moon lamp. It's one of those 3D printed moons, and then it's got LEDs in it, so it'll turn a bunch of colors. It used to sit right here. I could put it back there, I guess. There's nothing stopping me. Well, since I'm going to do that, I have to turn the lava lamp, the pizza lamp, and the live lamp, or a live sign back on, which means I have to get up, which means Kitty Cat's going to get off my lap, and she probably won't come back. So I will never forgive you for making me do this. Just for fun, I did get a new shipment of Spankies. So this box contains 6 necessary beings. Huh? How about that? If Planet Peterson has 6 necessary beings, but people on Shopify buy 2 of them, how many necessary beings does Planet Peterson still have? Huh? Can you answer that? Anyways, so I sold out of those, so I had to buy some more. I don't know if they ever stop making those, I'm going to be extremely sad. I'm not going to know what to do. Anyways, I don't know if this comment is serious or not, but whatever. Yeah, we got 69 viewers. That's nice. Let's see. Happy to get a recap. The lights are now on. Yep. Torquebo. I talked to Torquebo last night. I am doing well. I didn't get to see the debate yet. Oh, the Sam Cedar thing. I actually, maybe tomorrow. I actually do want to go through the Sam Cedar thing with you guys because I couldn't think of anything else to do. Can you make a link for the store? It should be in the description of this video. It's in the description of pretty much all my videos. But let me put an invite link for the StreamYard here. And let me post that. And I have to go on YouTube to pin it. Because if you have questions, comments about the debate, friendly or critical, I don't care either way, then I'm happy to hear them. Because of course I think I did well. But if I didn't, and I want to try to get better, then how am I ever supposed to know that if according to me I did? I mean, I know what I know what didn't go necessarily as well for me, but there could be several other things. How's the guitar practice going? Well, I haven't played guitar since last night. I really am not playing guitar very much right now. It's kind of sad, actually. Has there been any fallout from Andrew about the debate? Not that I'm aware of. Oh, so that banner actually stays there if I... Okay. All right, right. Sam Cedar runs into someone. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I watched pretty much the entire thing, like 90% of it. And yeah, the Hispanic guy, he was doing that whole thing. Is StreamYard on mic? I don't know what that means. I have absolutely no idea what that means. Okay. Let's... Where the hell is it? There it is. I really hate how there's going to be two of me on here. Let's just make that smaller. I wish I could crop this so you can't even see me. Is that possible to... No, it's not possible to do. Was the debate hard to deal with considering Andrew was kind of talking over you? I wouldn't really say so. I pretty much... When he was cross-examining me, there were a couple times where I was trying to make points that he wouldn't let me make. In one of those instances, I just had to wait for him to shut up, and then I made my point. But the other one, he brought up birth rates, and then I started to address it, and he said, "No, don't address it. I'm talking. It's my cross-examination." I was like, "What the fuck?" Wait, what? Oh, never mind. But but then there was another time where I don't remember specifically what it was, but I started answering his question and he interrupted me, and then I just waited him to stop, and then I continued on. So, what would you say is your favorite scale? I don't know, the major scale, I guess. I don't get into the modes that much. I'm not that good of a guitar player, and I know very little about music theory, so I don't do like the Dorian, Lorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Locrian. There's a couple others. One of my favorite bands, though, the Allman Brothers Band, they were really into doing the Mixolydian scale. But like literally, you can just transpose the scale pattern. If you just know how many steps to transpose it, then you only need to learn one scale. You just need to know where it goes in a way. So anyways, you guys stop distracting me. We got to watch this. So full confession. I didn't listen to Andrew Wilson's opening statement at all because I just figured it would be his way of trying to get me either riled up or to just distract from the conversation. So I started out, I was like, well, let's see how it goes. But then when he just started off the bat being like, let's all remind ourselves that Planet Peterson, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, he's just doing personal attacks. I'm not interested, but I'm going to take a listen here. Altair, I want to discuss the point where he was kind of trying to portray the question, should X happen as equal to should X be legal? Yeah, that is a thorny thing, because if you take a principled position, then you have to say things like, no, I don't think it should be illegal for these horrible people to be in the government, but that doesn't mean I think they should be in government. And people really don't like that, but that's because a lot of people are unbearably naive politically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. You have 10 minutes starting now.
I'll answer this question and then we're going to finally get started. Guitar tone. John Mayer, Dwayne Allman and Dickie Betts, so the Allman Brothers. David Gilmour, obviously, and Jimmy Page.
I would like to remark in my opening statement that Mr. Peterson made a very long hit piece about yours truly called Andrew Wilson is a Moron. Very good framing on that, by the way. In it, he claims I misrepresented and gave bad arguments against secular humanism and Craig FTFE. When offered the same debate with the same prompts so he could prove it, our good friend Mr. Peterson did decline. I just want to point that out. Instead, demanding that we do a debate where I needed to, quote, convince him Christianity needed to be in government.
That's really not what happened, because I was told that there would be there was a debate with Andrew on the topic of should Christianity be in government, and I accepted it. And then Andrew said, no, Peterson, I don't want to debate you on that, even though I was told there's a debate with Andrew Wilson on this topic. Do you want to do it? Instead, he was like, oh, I debate you on secular humanism. Like, I don't care to do that. So whatever.
When I said that was fine, if I could do the same thing to him in secularism, he also declined. He also, strangely enough, told his audience some false things, and I just want to clear those up very quickly. Mr. Peterson didn't demand this format of debate, so I couldn't evade questions. Rather, we were doing the format that Taco himself does every single debate. I have seen him host, and the same format that Taco
Wow. I don't think I ever said, I mean, I said that Andrew does avoid things, but I never said that the reason we're doing this is because Andrew avoids. I mean, I did say that to him personally. I mean, I'm not gonna share the DMs that we had or whatever, but no, I only do cross examinations. I mean, that's universal with everybody.
requested to begin with, so I have no idea why Mr. Peterson made that up, but he did. Perhaps to sound like he got me in some kind of format I'm not used to, but he's going to find out better tonight. Now to the debate itself. Mr. Peterson has the affirmative that Christianity shouldn't be in government. He qualified American government, which I agreed to. He just went over that himself. I'm completely uninterested in any tangential debate that Mr. Peterson actually wants to have, which is just God isn't real, though, which means nothing in this debate.
He actually said that? Yeah, I never once went over that.
To start with, I'd like to bring up the country most libs point to as the happiest in the world, Finland. And the happiest country in the world, they're
a lot of people. There's a huge number of comments talking about Finland here. If I just do a search, there's 3 right off the bat, but this didn't load very many comments. Okay, well maybe it wasn't huge, but 1, 2, 3, 6. 2 of them are in the same comment. I saw a lot of people bring up Andrew, first of all, misrepresenting Finland. I don't know dick shit about Finland, so I'm not going to comment, but it was really funny the way like to go from we're here to talk about Christianity in the United States government. So anyways, Finland
exist 2 state churches. Yes, that's right. 2. Both of these bodies have the ability to levy taxes. The taxes paid by members of the 2 churches and the rates determined on the parish level. While the government collects the taxes, the 2 churches pay for the cost of collecting them and receive the amounts paid.
This statement is true. I mean, I still don't really respect him. I mean, he's good at what he does, but
these go to fund the maintenance, repair of churches and public services such as record keeping, funeral services, and many others. We would call this a form of symphonia in Orthodoxy, the idea of the church working hand in hand with the state, represented by a 2-headed eagle. Now, here in the USA, you can imagine that the government levying a tax to the behest of the church and then collecting it along with normal income taxes would be something Mr. Peterson wouldn't like very much. It's an example of the church and government working just fine.
Wait, what did he say that I wouldn't like?
2-headed eagle. Now, here in the USA, you can imagine that the government levying a tax to the behest of the church and then collecting it along with normal income taxes would be something Mr. Peterson wouldn't like very much. It's an example of the church and government working just fine. But wait, there's more. Since these are 2 different churches, one, the Orthodox Church, the other, a Lutheran church, you would think there would be significant social problems. He brought this up in his opening. Quite the contrary. That's odd considering their dogmas and doctrines are so removed from each other,
Hi, everybody. I just had to get that out of the way.
Isn't it? Yet, by all accounts, these 2 bodies, while they engage in rigorous debate, generally work hand in hand towards the general good and welfare of the peoples of their nation. Mr. Peterson will claim in this debate that there are so many different denominations.
Yeah, but what is it that allows them to work side by side? It's probably some sort of secularizing principle, I would wager. Torquebo, I see you in there. I do want to watch a little bit of this before I start bringing up guests because I'm already kind of interrupting the reaction here. But I'll get to you.
Nations of religions. How did I predict that? How could we possibly choose which one would represent us? Yet all of those denominations exist in Finland and they're doing fine. The happiest people on earth, supposedly. Yet they have Buddhism, Hindus, Jews, Catholics, Anglicans, Islamics, all under the same roof of a nation, with 2 denominations being officially recognized as state churches and those churches having a say in actual policy making. This should be some kind of nightmare for Mr. Peterson, but it seems to work so good that they're the happiest people in the world. Go figure. Now to U.S. policy, try to understand that our nation itself isn't divorced from religion any more than Finland, and never has been. There's simply an establishment clause saying the federal government can't favor one religion over another or prohibit the free exercise of it.
Or enact laws based on a religion.
Interestingly,
kind of funny how he left that part out.
They still can. One way is they simply don't recognize a religion as valid, and they do this by not recognizing the church as legitimate and not recognizing them as a church and giving them the same status as other churches. Which, by the way, they do all the time. The IRS has official rules for what a church is. In fact, it includes creeds, forms of worship. It's super extensive. Now to the...
It's really not. Somebody made a comment on this. This is something I knew about. John Oliver started a church, and it wasn't particularly difficult for him to do.
Arguments themselves for Christianity being in government. One, the early history of the United States is one that tells a different story than modern secularists would have you believe, like Mr. Peterson. The founders in shaping this constitutional republic referenced Deuteronomy more than any other philosophy.
Wow, he actually brought that up. That is a complete and total lie. I brought this up in the Q&A section. He wasn't there for that. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find something on this for you guys.
Figures. And then the question is, does the Bible say anything about politics?
All right, let's see it.
The book of Deuteronomy is an unbelievably political book, where the founding fathers quoted Deuteronomy more than any other author, secular or religious, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Rousseau, more than Machiavelli, more than Aristotle. They quoted Deuteronomy.
So this is just flatly false, but it is either an intentional or an unwitting misrepresentation of research that was published by Donald S. Lutz in the early 80s. Lutz conducted a survey of all of the political writings from America from the founding era, which he considered to run from the 1760s to 1805. Here's the article if you want to go check it out. And as Lutz is very careful to emphasize, almost 75% of the texts that were included in this political writings category were sermons that were reprinted as pamphlets. That is where the overwhelming majority of the quotations of the Bible and the book of Deuteronomy in particular come from. And the quotations of Deuteronomy are not very specific. They tend to be very general, generic references to the value of the law, just in general. And Lutz also goes and looks at the political writings that were published between 1787 and 1788 by those who were in the Federalist camp and by those who were in the anti-Federalist camp. So when it comes to the founding fathers themselves, rather than just anyone and everyone who is publishing political writings in the founding era, what Lutz found was the anti-Federalists quoted the Bible in only 9% of their writings between those 2 years, so during the debates about the Constitution. The Federalists, they quoted the Bible a grand total of 0 times between 1787 and 1788. And Lutz explains it's because when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of actually putting together a government, they are adopting Enlightenment, rationalist ideals, and classical thought, and the Bible is nowhere to be found because it is not relevant. So Charlie Kirk is just not a competent student of history and certainly not of the Bible.
Because
there we go.
Out of Deuteronomy comes the civil law, this idea of separation of powers and independent judiciary.
Yeah, none of that is accurate.
So, yeah, just, I don't know, keep that, when somebody makes that talking point, just keep that in mind.
This study was cited by the American Political Science Review and is noted by the C.S. Lewis Institute, who remarked this. This is also a book that records God's dealings with the chosen nation, especially in establishing the political and legal institutions necessary to govern a nation. Now, we can find text in the New Testament that deals with government, think Romans 13, for example, and it gives us a sense of the duties of citizenship and the like. But what we find in the book of Moses and in that condensed version of Deuteronomy is the nuts and bolts of how do you make the establishment of a nation. This is direct proof, by the way, end quote. This is direct proof the Bible was indeed used heavily to determine government structure itself.
Wow, that would have been really great if I would have, if I'd have listened to this, I wouldn't have had all the stuff, the particulars memorized to give the rebuttal to Andrew, but that would have been a pretty great thing to respond to. You know, I was kind of watching the chat a little bit during this because I wasn't listening to anything, and I saw a lot of Andrew Wilson fans in the chat. I don't know how much you guys saw this, but the most common thing I saw was Planet Peterson's beard is patchy, which I shave this like that. Like it grows down there. I just shaved it to look like this. Whatever, I don't care. But they said his beard is patchy, therefore he's gay, therefore he loses the debate. That was basically the argument.
My second argument is that most states that are founding already had state religions, and that you had to swear oaths to Christianity to even hold office. The Constitution was ratified 1788, and there were still states with official state religions, which makes it laughable that under the 10th Amendment, they didn't allow states to have state religions, because they clearly did. Our founders were fully aware of this fact, stating the Constitution was for a moral and religious public. Quote, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams. Adams is talking about men who believe like Mr. Peterson, by the way. 9 of these states required a sworn oath that Jesus Christ is Lord, in fact. There didn't seem to be very much confusion. My third argument is that the entire United States is already run like a religious institution. Men with ceremonial black robes who sit on high pedestals judge the people on judging days. Other men in black ceremonial robes give and interpret the law. We have national anthems, the etymology of which are liturgical hymns. We have dogmatic beliefs in every sense of the word. Dogmas around patriotism, American exceptionalism, a strict adherence to the concept of rights, an invisible metaphysical concept, which isn't true, but we put faith in it anyway. We persecute heretics. We call them communists and socialists and people who, quote, want to destroy our way of life. Anybody who goes against the law of the land is interpreted by the lawgivers and the law interpreters in the black robes, and they will be persecuted for it. Things like rights and other dogmas are forced on the population as a way in which they must.
Isn't this just an argument that anything is a religion? Like, he's not making this specific argument, but it just sounds the exact same as, well, atheism is actually technically a religion, or evolution is a religion, or whatever. The only, I don't know, either everything's a religion, or the only possible alternative is complete anarchy. Or maybe government isn't religion. Any system that organizes people and has rules and whatever, like, to just say that it is a religion is basically to presuppose that this only comes from religion. Now, we don't know, and we will never know what the original, like, how did the first groups of people on Earth organize themselves? According to what types of doctrines? Religious ones? Or, I don't know, or was the first way we organized society purely in a, like, bureaucratic, governmental, utilitarian, hey, we're just trying to be a group of people that lives together, so let's do this, that, or the other thing? I don't know. That's the only thing you could use for that.
Live their life as a sense of normative claims. Our politicians take oaths of office, often given on the Bible itself, but the fact they are giving oaths at all infers there will be some kind of divine intervention to that oath breaker. They give oaths of office just like they used to. I would argue the entire system is religious and dogmatic in its very nature, and Peterson will have to explain why those dogmas are incompatible with Christianity, or reject it, or in any way wouldn't be made better by it. My fourth argument is that blind justice makes no sense. It makes no sense absent the Christian view. This concept is uniquely biblical. Neither rich nor poor judge them the same.
That's not, there is no way. What? Hold on. Okay, let's see. The only thing I can say is no, I'm deeply skeptical of that, but that just seems silly. See what we can find. I wonder if Dan has a video on this. Blind justice. No, I feel like I've heard him talk about that before. Again, it's ChatGPT. Do not take it as gospel, but it's just a quick way to try to find information, and the information can be fact-checked. Ancient Egypt, the concept of, I mean, I don't know, what would they say? Yeah, but that was influenced by the Judeo-Christian tradition. Sounds like a blind justice. Emphasized law applying to all classes, though punishments differed. Okay. Themis and Dyke. Never heard of that. Greek philosophy, particularly Plato and Aristotle, also explored impartial justice. Romans personified justice as justitia, often depicted wearing a blindfold. So that's the whatever that we adopted. There's so much Roman and Greek influence in our capital, like with the architecture. To me, I mean, maybe I don't know. I think a lot of those buildings are just goofy looking because it's just a hodgepodge of Greek and Roman architecture mixed with random other things that it just doesn't actually make any sense. And then the Bible, obviously. So I would just I think that's just unfounded.
In a non-Christian view, there isn't really any reason at all for justice to be meted out the way we mete it out. An eye for an eye or serious punishment is just as reasoned for justice as forgiveness.
I'm not doubting at all that the Bible says something to that effect, but the idea that that's where it comes from, what he said is it's uniquely biblical.
And rehabilitation.
Maybe in Western civilization, because what you could just argue that, well, it existed in ancient Egypt, but ancient Egypt isn't what shaped Western culture. I think that's actually false. Or it would be false to say that it had zero influence, that is, but whatever.
Why can't a rapist be castrated or raped himself for the crime of rape? Why not murder the murderer? This is every bit in conformance to reason as the current justice code, except the current one still relies on Christian ethics. I have 6 more arguments after this, but I think that that's probably as much as I can fit in for my opening. But let me address a couple of things before we get to the cross-examination. I agree with Mr. Peterson. He can't get an offer from an is, but then he makes this really bizarre claim. Peterson says, I'm at the mercy of a should claim, but he's at the mercy of a shouldn't claim, which is also an ought claim. I don't know if he knows this or not. When you say you should not do thing, that's also an ought claim, just like saying you should do a thing.
He and I got into this when we talked about, he's like, I said, oh, well, no, that's normative and not moral. And he said it's the same thing. Moral claims are normative claims because if you're talking about ethics, there's going to be a normative sense in there. And I can just say that that's totally true. But what I mean is I'm not appealing. What I'm trying to say by the normative ethic is I'm not telling you there's an objective standard or a set of objective rules that exist somewhere or that are passed down from on high or anything like that. I'm saying there's some sort of, I laid this out with the machine analogy and the trying to draw a straight line analogy in my opening. There is a goal that you have in mind. And so normatively, you work toward that goal because you have an objective. So you judge things. What you should and shouldn't do is simply, we could just say it's graded based on how well does it accomplish the task in question. And it just kind of seemed like he was conflating that here with or maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining it or something. I don't know. I did the best I could. But he's saying, well, Peterson's telling us what we should or shouldn't do, but he's going to skirt responsibility for that. But Andrew Wilson has to do it. No, I made my case and I did the best to sell my case that Christianity creates a dysfunctional or is more likely to create a dysfunctional government, even in the eyes of Christians. I said it's a compass, not a ruler.
So saying we should not have Christianity in government is making a normative claim. It's literally making an ought claim. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about there, but we can get into it. What can you do when you can't criticize?
Yeah, again. So I tried to say it out. I never said that I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but if you think, or if we know that this thing, the function of something can be measured as a consequence of XYZ variables, then we can say these are the variables that work better than others. The analogy I gave during the debate, just off the top of my head, which I really liked, was like, look, you have a car. You want to win the Daytona 500? Well, I'm going to dump a bunch of nails into the engine. Well, you're not going to win the Daytona 500. Yeah, but it's my car. I have the right to do that. Yeah, you do. But don't claim that you're going to win the Daytona. You can claim you want to win the Daytona 500, but you're sabotaging your car, so you're not going to. You can't tell me that I can't. I know I can't tell you that. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm just telling you that if that's what you want to do, that isn't going to work.
Islam, he says, or Christianize Islam or Christianize these people. What do they do in Finland, where all of these different denominations live together and there's two state religions? Well, what happens is the 10th Amendment goes into effect, and it's up to the ethics of the population to put in the religion that they choose. Also, he says Christian ethics are barred from government, and that's actually kind of just counterintuitive and stupid. If you vote your conscience,
I never said Christian ethics are borrowed from government.
And you're Christian, that's Christian ethics. Just like that, that's Christian ethics.
I wonder if he meant that the other way around.
If you're
I wonder if he meant actually, I have no idea what he meant.
a politician and you're voting based on your normative ethical framework and you're a Christian, you're going to be voting against abortion bills, you're going to be voting against tax bills, you're going to be voting for all sorts of different things, which are going to rely heavily on your actual ethical framework, which is Christianity. It's already there. It's already there. And does he want to get rid of it? No. What he'll say instead is, no, I'm fine if Christians utilize the Constitution by voting in other Christians who can then amend the Constitution. So it's like, he can't even tell me that they shouldn't be there. He'll actually have to say that they should. And with that, I'll cede my time. We can get into the cross-examination.
All right. Altair, I will bring you up in just a second here. All right. I'll bring you up right now since we're done with listening to Andrew, at least for the time being.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Great. First of all, thanks for bringing me up. I'm a huge fan. I am subscribed to both of your channels. Also, sorry for my
very good.
English. It might be imperfect because not my native language, but anyway. So I didn't listen to the entirety of 4 hours, but I got to like 2 hours maybe in the debate. And there's two huge problems that I saw. First was the one that I mentioned in the chat.
Oh yeah. I didn't really get a chance to read that. Well, yeah, just talk about it openly. However,
all right. So the Andrews seem not to recognize a very serious difference between like should something happen and should something be legal. Like you can think of many things that I don't think that should be illegal, but in the same time I don't like them like to happen. Like for example, cheating in the relationship, is it bad? Like could I say that I don't want people like to cheat in their relationships? Yes, I can say that because it leads to, for example, to divorce. That and kids from broken families are, I don't know, they're doing worse at school, whatever. But do I at the same time say that it should be illegal to cheat in the relationship? No, because really it's I don't think it should be illegal. Like you should go to jail if you cheat. I really don't. So that's one example. And the other problem is with the, like, he asked you if Nazis would. By the way, can you say Nazis in in YouTube?
I don't care.
Okay, all right. So if the Nazis get to the government, should they do their Nazi job? I mean, it's really not that simple because, for example, as I said in the beginning, I'm from Poland, and Poland is very Catholic country in the sense that church has an impact on the politicians, and like most people don't give a shit about, like, you know, they go to church because their parents go to church, whatever, but people really don't really care about it. It's like more of a social thing, you know. You baptize your children, you kind of, you know, you take the wedding at the church and whatever, but people don't give a fuck really. But the problem is that church, I don't see the problem with, for example, a Catholic being in the parliament. I really don't.
Yeah.
But
Me neither.
the problem is, for example, abortion laws. They say that their religion tells them that I don't know, the fetus is the human being, and killing it is wrong, and it should be illegal. And by disagreeing with this, I don't say that I want abortion to happen all the time and whatever. I mean, it's probably not very pleasant experience for the woman as well, right? I really don't think it should be like, you know, uh, how do you say this, encouraged or whatever. But in the same time, I think it should be legal. And
Right.
if your religion tells me that it's wrong, with all due respect, I don't care, because I'm not, you know, I I don't share your religion. So
Yeah.
that's the problem. And by simplifying the question that Andrew tried to frame it like this, you really don't see much of a context. Like,
What
and I think
Oh,
you,
sorry.
you did a good job that you, at the same time, you didn't evade the question. You answered yes. Like, if you frame it like that, then yes, but it
Yeah,
really
he was
doesn't resolve the issue.
he
Yeah, sorry for
he
the rant.
thought what he'd be able to make me do is say something contradictory, like, no, I don't think they should be in government, even though I think it's legal, you know, and then to make me look like a hypocrite. But I didn't fall for that. And then like the pedophile thing that he tried, I was like, well, that's a felony, and felons can't be in government. And then he said, well, what if it happened when they were a kid, and so it only counted as a misdemeanor? We were at the end of the time, but like if I could have explained that further, I'd be like, okay, if it's a misdemeanor and that doesn't disqualify them from government, then I understand that they would technically be eligible. And I don't believe in just wide scale expanding limitations, because limited government is extremely important. However, even if that's the case, guess what? The person still has to run. Like you probably don't know about this, but back in 2017, a guy who admitted he was a pedophile when he was like in his 40s, whose name was Roy Moore, ran for governor of Alabama or senator of Alabama, and he lost, even though he was a Republican, and even though in the rural districts he was getting upwards of 98% of the votes, he still lost. So I would say I put it in the hands of rational people to make that decision. But what can also happen is somebody can get in office and then later we learn things about them. This very famously happened 2 years ago with a guy named George Santos in the United States. And guess what? He was, I don't know technically what it was, if he was impeached, censured, or what. He was removed from office. Censuring doesn't get you removed from office, but I don't remember specifically how it was done. But we have systems in place for that. There should be this freedom to engage in democracy. And because of the limited government, yes, it does allow things that we don't like to occur, but then there are systems to protect against that
Yeah,
as well.
and that's a good point. And also, you highlighted also a very important thing during the debate, that future Christians will call what he believes in like non-Christian, right? Because it happens all the time, especially in the Catholic Church, when you have like you know, the it, there are certain things that if you said 200 years ago, the Catholic Church would call you a heretic, but
Yeah.
now you can say them. So it really, he doesn't get any closer to an whatever objective morality grounded in whatever he imagines that it is, because really you can make this argument about secular humanities or whatever, that yeah, it's not grounded in anything, whatever. But really, your the like religious claims are also not immutable. People
Mhm.
like, you know, like 2000 years ago where Christianity was only born then. But what I mean is that every time every single religious person says something that to them is objective and true and whatever, is as much as subjective as whoever else.
Yeah, it's absolutely subjective. And even if they had the objective truth and the objective moral facts or whatever, even if they did, it would still be completely arbitrary to say, oh, well, then I should. You can reject a moral fact. It's by complete arbitration that you accept a moral fact. There was a pretty good YouTube video I watched kind of as a refresher to this. I can't remember what it was called. It's something like The Problem of Arbitration in Ethics or something like that. It was recommended to me by somebody in Actually, you know what? I could find it. I'll tell you what the title of it was. Shouldn't take me very long, because this Discord server is kind of dead. There isn't a lot of conversation that goes on in it. Shit, I say that and now I can't find it. 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I could. If you have a Discord server,
it's called Moral Realism: The Arbitrariness Challenge, and I will. This is it right here. Oh shit, I'm not sharing the screen. This is it right here. Moral Realism: The Arbitrariness Challenge. So there you go. That's what it's called. So just kind of, and somebody was asking a question in the comments a little while ago about deriving oughts from ises and why you can't logically do that. And
that's a huge problem.
That goes into that. Yeah. So.
And also the Euthyphron. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Euthyphron dilemma.
Euthyphro dilemma. Yep.
Yeah, for me it's kind of a defeater, because whether you would say that things are moral because God says it's moral, or the other way, you kind of cannot escape, like, the arbitrary condition of this. Like,
it either, if it's objective, then it comes from outside of God, then we don't need him. But if it comes from God, then it's subjective.
Yeah, and also I would have one more topic, like maybe not like strictly connected to the topic of the life, but I wanted to kind of talk about like cosmological arguments, like, the first cause, whatever, not getting us any closer to the like Christian God or whatever, because I recently.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I got another person waiting, and I don't want to divert too much, but I actually have a video on this. It's called just go to my channel and type in fine tuning, and you'll see a video, or you'll see a picture of a guy named Trent Horn. Because I made a pretty long video about the cosmological.
Yeah, sure.
argument.
I just recently we have on our Polish YouTube, we have a few like Catholic apologists, and they are really like
Trent
doing
Horn
a
is Catholic.
really bad job at like explaining things, because they would like start from there's first cause, fine tuning, whatever, and therefore your God wants you not to masturbate. It really doesn't follow.
Stuff like that.
But thank you for having me. Sorry
you're
for
very
being
welcome.
kind of nervous, and thanks, and bye bye.
I'll see you next time. Let's see. I don't really. So I want to try to address this. The problem is there's no logical argument for why, even if you have the objective, moral facts or whatever, there's no logical argument that you should obey them or follow them. It has to be completely subjective. the only way, the decision to follow them will always be completely subjective. That's essentially the problem. So we got, I'm gonna sorry, I'm just trying, I try to just leave me on the screen, just, I don't know, personal preference. So what's up?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Not too bad.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in real quick and say, yeah, I also debated Andrew and his wife Rachel at DebateCon 5. I was part of that. Well, Modern Day Debate hasn't yet published the videos, but that round robin that that we did.
Interesting.
But what do you think about, why would you even argue that religion needs to be any part of law and government? I mean, if we do something against the religious, what's up, everyone?
Yeah, sorry, I'll bring you up.
It's all good. Why would we even need to be concerned with the law? If you do something against Christian ethics, wouldn't you just go to hell? Like, doesn't that trump?
I wanted to bring this up earlier when I was talking to Altair, but I got distracted because this got brought up during the Q&A portion, which went on for a really long time and maybe people didn't watch. But somebody, the weird part about this, and it's a very good point that you bring up, is why are you so concerned with your personal beliefs not being private? Because if the government allows you to practice your faith, then what exactly is the problem here? Unless the only thing that's missing here is you want to subject your morality onto other people. And so that would be the only argument. And he does make that argument. He just basically says he doesn't like the way things are. He thinks the left is ruining this country. He's really, really big on his claims of sexual immorality and all that stuff. So he wants to fix it by imposing his will. And then his only argument for that is then, well, how come you're allowed to do it, but I'm not allowed to do it? And the argument is no. First of all, I'm not an anarchist. A complex society has to have rules or it falls apart. And I'm not an anarchist. So I don't believe in that. And the reason I don't believe in, and the reason I'm not an anarchist is because I believe a complex society has to have rules. So anyways, but they'll say, well, no, you're using the government and monopolizing force to force people to be peaceful. That's the exact same thing. It's like, no, because what we do is we have a set of, you can call them arbitrary, but, and I mean, in a way they are. However, these are arbitrary rules that the vast majority of all people agree on. And it is, at least like with respect to religion or whatever, it is that you are allowed to freely practice whatever your religious beliefs are, so long as they don't infringe on other rights set up in the Constitution. So you're absolutely free to, I don't know, you can circumcise your children if you want, but you can't go around to, you can't start a school and say, well, at this school, all of our students have to be circumcised. So, oh, you transferred to our school as a 15-year-old? Well, the school nurse is going to cut off the tip of your wiener. Okay.
Oh, wait,
you can't
have
do
a private
that.
school that does that? Shouldn't
Sorry?
you be allowed to open your own school? If you want to sign up for that school, and that's the rules at that
Yeah,
school?
you can have the private school, and you can say that everybody that goes, this is so freaking weird, but
Yeah.
but you can have that rule that no, you can't go to our school unless you're circumcised.
Right.
But you can't force people to be circumcised.
Right,
You
they're
can
allowed
just
to
say,
drop out.
well,
yeah.
you're not getting into this club. So there you go.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to tap out. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah,
I'll
no
catch you
problem.
later.
It's a really good question.
Yeah. Oh, wait, one more thing, dude. Any chance you're going to be at the BakeCon 6 or participate in that in the future?
Is that the one that's going to be in Michigan?
Ooh, last I heard was Nashville, but that's
I think
unofficial.
they hadn't decided yet. It was
Yeah, October.
I got an email from James and he asked me where I live. And he's like, are you by any chance interested in the next one? And he gave, I remember he said Michigan, but maybe it was up to a vote still at that point. But I said, well, no, I live in California. He's like, oh, well, we come to San Diego every now and then. I'm like, well, that's like a 4-hour drive for me, but I'd be happy to do it and go. That'd be cool. I have a feeling those are a lot more shit showy than like the regular stuff, but whatever. It's a cool thing to do, and it's it's good for the brand, quote unquote.
For sure. All right, dude.
Okay.
Good talking with you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for
Thanks.
coming up. That guy was cool. Looks like you guys are just kind of talking to each other in the comment section. All right. So the only thing I wanted to do at this point was just kind of rewatch part of the cross-examination that Andrew Wilson did for me, and then just kind of go over some of it. The one thing, I mean, I thought the debate went fine. I thought it would go off the rails, and it didn't. So, like, in light of that, I'm just going to say that the debate itself was successful. I mean, if I would grade myself, I would say I would give myself like a B or something like that. Because I wasn't super aggressive, but I didn't want to be, because I didn't want the debate to go off the rails, you know? So I guess that's why I chose not to be. And that's probably going to be one of the biggest criticisms, but I don't know. I wanted it to be useful and constructive, instead of like two guys just like trying to dunk on each other. And then obviously people that are a fan of me will think that I won out in that, and vice versa or whatever. But the one thing that we didn't talk about that I wish we would have talked about was, I forgot. What the hell was it? What the fuck is wrong with me? I've been thinking about this and now I don't remember what it was. Oh, I didn't ask Andrew, what is it that our government is failing that you think Christianity will fix? Because I had a litany of claims that I'm pretty sure he would have spoken about with respect to that, where I think, or like rebuttals to the claim that Christianity can fix that. Whatever. I had rebuttals to them. I don't know what I'm doing with my words right now. And another key part of that is that I asked him at the very end of my cross-examination, is there anything that a Christian can believe that nobody else can, besides like the faith in Christ, like that hyper-specific religious aspect? And he said no, and that's totally fair. And then my point was sort of like, well, then I don't know why we need Christianity to come in here and fix this. But we only barely tried to get into a few of these things. I'll get to this, and then Jim Bob, I'll get to your question next, or your whatever it is. We got into the birth rates thing, you know, and with respect, it's like, but we don't have to create laws that make birth rates go up or anything. Like, if Christians in society just happen to do that, and that's good for society, then by all means, keep the First Amendment the way it is and allow Christians to do what they do and increase in the population. Like, there's no need for Christianity in government for that supposed problem. What else? I don't know. The other thing, probably he would have gone to like the sexual ethic that he believes in, which is why I did bring this up several times. But the most religious states in this country are the ones with the most teen pregnancies and the most STDs and the lowest life expectancy and the highest rate of suicide and the highest rate of homicide. And I was like, then why would you want to bring that into, like, Andrew Wilson looks at Islam and he says, I don't want the culture of Islam in my government. But I think he just fails to look at the culture of Christianity in this country, or he just cherry picks what he likes about it, forgetting that there's all these other things he doesn't like. So I wish we could have talked about that, because I think that would have made my case pretty well. But the thing about that was, the reason I didn't go into that, because first of all, we didn't have enough time for it. But the second thing was, I honestly felt like those claims, I was hoping he was going to bring them up, because he needs to he needs to make his, well, he doesn't need to make his case, but I thought maybe he would. So I thought it would be more appropriate for me to respond to, these are the things Christianity will do, because otherwise I just tell him to tell me, and then I just ramble about them, on and on and on, you know? So I just thought, I just kind of hoped he would bring it up in cross-examination or whatever. Anyways, Thad, take a shot every time Andrew says doesn't understand the question or asks for further clarification to buy some time for a response. Yeah, Jim Bob was doing a really, I thought what he was doing was really fair. He was pausing the time, or he was keeping track of how much time we were spending on clarifications and then adding that time back. And I could have taken more time. My cross-exam went for 39 minutes, but I said, no, I don't want to feel like it would give the impression of partiality toward me, and I don't want that. So, Plain Pearson, the main distinction you'll have to reconcile is Christianity in government versus Christians in government. How do you know Christianity isn't present, but Christians are? I honestly feel like, and Jim Bob, thank you. You absolutely don't have to do that. And we've had our differences, but Jim Bob and I had the debate and it actually went pretty well. So, I feel like I addressed this a few different times because Christians can be in government. And so if a Christian is in the government and then starts voting on laws that go through Congress in the complete legal way, and these laws don't violate the Constitution, but that Christian says, I'm doing this because my Christian faith tells me I should do this. Do I believe that they should be kicked out of government because they're imposing Christian ethics on us? No, because to the extent that their ethics overlap with the limitations of government or whatever, get our fancy Venn diagram, I have no problem with the middle of this Venn diagram. I don't think that's a contradiction or anything, because the only I think the logical conclusion, the reductio ad absurdum or whatever to that is, well, then we just have to discount all religious claims. We can't privilege, in this case, it's like disprivilege Christianity and say all Christian ethics are out, because the Christian ethic includes thou shalt not murder. So now we have to make that legal. Like, that's just obviously so too stupid. And there are too many religions that if you outlawed everything in every religion, you'd end up with contradictory, like things are out, like contradictions, and like you both must ban pork and you both must eat pork at the same time. Like, you would end up with something stupid like that. So then what you could also say, I don't know if this is fair. It sounds fair to me, but you could just say to them, like, look, I understand you're saying that the only reason you're doing this is because of Christianity, but I just reject your premise of that, and that it comes from wherever else. So, I don't see any questions. So, anyways,
and they amend that amendment. What's the problem?
For it to count, because believing in, besides like the specific claims about like the.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll go ahead and start.
I think that's fine. I'm ready when you are, Mr. Peter. Could I hope you do the same for me? So, starting with this, do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
Okay, well, we already talked about this, and then it gets into amending the First Amendment, right? The same way there are Christian scientists that still do good science, not based on religion, but have their private beliefs. I mean, kind of, sort of, yeah. To the extent that a Christian holds beliefs and they act on them, and whatever those beliefs are, to the extent that those beliefs overlap with the limits, you need Congress. I don't know if it's too late. There's some, and there's this like this technical argument about what does it take to get an amendment. And he said you don't need 3/4 of the states, and maybe like in the 1800s they amended a few things without that. I can see maybe that's how the 13th and the 14th got in or something. I don't know, but he didn't explain them either. So like whatever.
Came together for every.
Seemed kind of like a gotcha.
By the way, that's just factually inaccurate. But the thing is like that aside, we'll just leave that aside for a second. Let me just ask you, and I'm reclaiming my time on this. I'm kidding. Let me just ask you this. If Christians then, if you have no problem with them being in office, if there was such an overflow of the numbers, because that was the representation that people wanted, they voted in Christians and they made an amendment to, like, I don't know, get rid of the First Amendment, which they're completely well within their rights to do. What's the problem with that?
So our Constitution has a system where you can amend amendments, the 21st or 2nd, whatever, undid prohibition or whatever.
Well, no, you can just undo amendments.
I'm pretty sure you're correct. Cranky Cuber. Yeah, with amendments. But I mean, the problem I think the problem with this is that wouldn't be so I had this. Okay, so I schemed for this debate, right? Because I had the logic of how I wanted to go through this. And I didn't really get to use my playbook very often because what I didn't, I actually never brought this up when I was talking to Andrew, but the Bible says that you have to obey your governments. It did a tiny bit get brought up during my cross-examination of him, but I didn't really stick on it. But the point was, what I tried to do at the debate is show that whatever Andrew thinks we should do isn't a Christian perspective, because you'll find Christians and even in the Bible that have the opposite perspective for it. That was kind of the general idea I was trying to go with, which isn't really how the attack sort of went during my cross-examination. Yes, but anyways, so the Bible like specifically says that you have to obey your governments and then they're put into place by God. So what I was going to say, but I never said it about the First Amendment here, in addition, was, well, first of all, you shouldn't amend it because the Bible says to obey your governments and that they're put in place by God. So according to Christianity, you shouldn't amend the First Amendment. But even if you did amend it, then you could just amend the amendment like what we did with prohibition. And all of those cases would have the Bible's endorsing to them, which means even if you want to amend the First Amendment, Christianity isn't the reason you would want to do that because it's on both sides of the aisle of that issue. So it seems to me that the debate could have been more clearly argued as democratic republicanism versus theocracy. The former says theocracy is exclusive. Yeah, I mean, it could have, I don't know. I didn't like try to force him to be like, I need you to argue as a proponent of theocracy for the time being. Because maybe he doesn't want a pure theocracy. Maybe he wants the state and church religion type thing. If you amend the First Amendment, then I can just say, well, then we can just re-amend it because it was wrong of them to amend it in the first place. So, I mean, we've already gone into this. So. Well, it's kind of weird because we have an establishment clause. So if they did that,
well, yeah, I mean, but we used to have a slavery clause,
then
right?
It would be.
But hang on, Mr. Peterson, we used to have a slavery clause, right? And we amended that.
Slavery clause?
Yeah, we used to be able to own slaves. That was yes.
That's not no. The first, I don't know. Okay? I want to actually fact check this. I believe him, but I just want to know if it's actually true. Did states before the Civil War explicitly say in their constitution that you can have slaves? Because I know the Constitution of the Confederacy copied the Union's constitution basically exactly, except it said slavery will always exist. Georgia, 1777, made no direct mention of slavery, but by the 1798 Constitution, slavery was explicitly protected. The General Assembly shall have, well, that says 1861. But by 1798 Constitution, slavery was protected. Mississippi, 1817. The legislature shall have no power to pass laws for the emancipation of slaves without the consent of their owners. Okay, so this is, I just take this as true. And I don't know, I have no problem with that. None of the first... I have a huge problem with it. I mean, it's not a problem for my argument. 12 amendments said you can own slaves. That's completely false. And actually,
I'm sorry,
slavery, it specifically said that they could own, and gets changed, then that becomes federal law, and then it's super.
That's circular. the Constitution is set up so that we can amend amendments. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So if it is the case that it's set up for us to do that, if Christians have power, and you have no problem with Christians having power, and they amend that amendment,
Yep.
what's the problem?
Because the framers of the Constitution set up the ability to amend the Constitution with respect to being able to produce a better, what was it? A more perfect union, or however they say it.
Yeah, but
But
who are you to
specifically-
determine what's better? Who are you to determine that?
Well, I'm just
Wouldn't it
telling
be
you
the
what the-
people who are elected? You want people to be
Yeah, he wouldn't. I don't know. I actually I don't need this to go over what what my thoughts on this are really. So like we spent the entire rest of his cross examination just on this, and then the Yahtzee thing, and there was like one other thing in there, but the way he's saying that it's hypothetically possible for Christians to get in there. It was really clever the way he did this, because he said, look, if a representative gets elected, they're supposed to do what their representatives say, right? Yes, they are. That is their duty. So they should do that. So if the Christians put them into power with the goal of abolishing the First Amendment, then they should do that. Now, I said yes, and then I said no. And I did say this at one point during the cross-examination. I thought I didn't make this clear, but I actually did. Yes, they do have the obligation to represent their representative or their constituents up until the point where it violates the Constitution, right? Then it wouldn't, or up until the point where it interferes with the function of either government or the country, essentially. That's why I reject, and it's not a contradiction for me to say, no, I do reject that they should abolish the First Amendment. Yes, they can. The limits on power and the structure of the Constitution allows for that to happen. That doesn't mean I think that it should happen. And this quarrel over, I just can't believe we spent this much time on it. The quarrel over it can happen, somehow meaning that therefore I think that's the equivalent of it should happen. That's just false. The best analogy I could think of was the Second Amendment. I wish I could have brought this up with Andrew, because I would guess, I don't know, but I would guess that Andrew Wilson, when Trump got shot by Thomas Crooks or whatever his name was, pretty sure Andrew Wilson thought that was a horrible thing, right? Now, wait a minute. Don't right-wingers, aren't they hardcore Second Amendment supporters? And doesn't the Second Amendment, or don't people's interpretation of it, and even what is written in the what are those papers called? The what the hell is wrong with me? What are the papers called where people, not the Federalist Papers, or is it the Federalist Papers? What the hell were the papers that the people that wrote the amendments, they referred to for like the arguments behind what they were doing? Okay, they are the Federalist Papers. Okay. But doesn't it say in there that the whole reason for the Second Amendment is to protect us from tyranny? So if Thomas Cooks, whatever his name was, has the right to exercise his Second Amendment, and that's what he thinks, that Trump is a tyrant, then Andrew, don't you think that he should act on his act in accordance with his Second Amendment rights? No, right? So I don't get to force Andrew to say that. I mean, I could make the argument that he's being logically inconsistent in this case, and that he's just arbitrarily saying, well, Trump's not a tyrant, but somebody else would be, so yeah, it would be justified or whatever. But I don't get to tell him that he should endorse that thing. I think the Second Amendment analogy is the best one. Anybody has the right to buy a firearm, and you have the right to use it. And even like hardcore Second Amendment people, they think you should be able to take them on planes and into schools and things like that. But you don't have the right, and you shouldn't go into a place like that and just massacre people. No, absolutely not. That's the most appropriate comparison that I could think of with regard to that. So, I mean, this whole thing is just going over that specific point over and over and over and over again. And then the thing, I don't know, the thing with like the Yahtzees being in government or whatever. Again, no, I don't think that any of them should be in government, but I, at the same time, don't necessarily think that we should expand things to say that this specific political party, it's illegal for them to run for government. That happened with communism. I think it actually might still be the case in some states that you can't run for office if you're a communist. There are states, even like very deep blue states, that say you can't run for office if you're an atheist. Those rules are actually on the books. So, just because I think it shouldn't be, and I tried to answer this with him, and he really spurged out on it, to borrow a phrase from Andrew, where he said, should they be able to run for government? And I said, in the sense that it shouldn't be illegal, yes. And he's like, just give me a fucking yes or no, bro. I was like, well, I don't know if you're trying to make me look bad, but yes means two different, like that question can, if you say yes, it can mean two different things. You desire for them to be, or you think they have the right. Those are two completely different things. And this was just hung up on that for the entire rest of the debate. Was the last, or was that the largest amount of anti-audience you've had so far? They were all, oh, I've never had a live stream crack 250 before, but last night, for the most part, it was in the 400s. So yeah. Yeah. Definitely. He was totally doing that to quote you out of context later, and he did. He said that he wasn't trying to do a gotcha, so I don't know. I think yeah, his wordplay on normative, the whole thing he gave about that's not a no true Scotsman fallacy, you got it back right. I couldn't follow anything he was saying with respect to that. Maybe we could watch that part again and I can try to make sense of it. If you're asking me to tell you what, if this happened, what would specifically be the next thing and then the next thing and then the next. Oh, wait, that happened during my cross-examination.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a Chris. Oh, yeah, that. What was the final logical syllogism count? There was, I can remember at least one point where Andrew said, here, I'll give it to you as a logical argument or whatever, but then I don't think he actually did. I mean, he kind of did, but Christian ethic developed by
which Christian ethics are contradicting themselves? You're talking about specific peoples. Yeah.
Okay, so were they wrong?
And
yeah, this is where this happens. Well, we got a guest. Let's see. How do I? Is there a way to? Ditso, what's up?
What's up, Planet Peterson? How you doing? I'm
good. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I did watch and rewatched it later on the night. Let me introduce myself so you give a notion of where I'm coming from. I'm a Latin American geopolitical analyst. I've been working on this for the past 25 years. What I do is mainly work on issues of human rights, application of constitutional rights within the Latin American region. And I've done works in comparison of how civil rights and human rights are applied in North America, between North America and Latin America. I work issues of indigenous and Afro communities here in Latin America. And one of my major works has been drug policy reform, the end of the war on drugs, etc. So
cool.
In that line, yeah. So when he began with this whole thing about normative, I was just I it felt like I wanted to be right next to you and say, hold on, the semantical wordplay is not functioning, because he said normative is, he equated normative with morality.
Yeah.
And for a moment there, I'm like, does he even understand the origin of the word normative? And that in English is actually a contribution linguistically from Latin languages? And that,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't ask, and we didn't get into it.
yeah, that's what pissed me off. Because from that point on, all his argument failed, since he couldn't grasp the notion that normative isn't equated to morality. Normative is just a codex that functions to establish an order. So you could argue that the Bible is a normative document.
Okay. Instead, as opposed to a moral document, you mean?
No, not necessarily opposed, as opposed to a moral document. No, it's a normative document because it establishes set rules and guidelines. The word normative tells you what it is. Normative is, sorry, let me take it out. Normative linguistically is comes from the Latin. Its suffix norma can be translated literally to rule, but not rule as in ruling, rule as a physical object to measure things. A rule, una regla, in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Tio means the order of things. So normative is just referring to the codex or the codification of XYZ, morality, judicial, historical, whatever. Even a cooking guide is a normative guide. And that's just it. So the Bible is normative because it gives you a series of rules.
Okay.
To follow. So when he came out saying, oh, well, it's an ought claim. No, normative claims are not ought claims. They're is claims.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough. Somebody in the comment, I remember seeing this earlier. Somebody commented on my video. Please learn the philosophical terminology just so Andrew can't hang on it and go away thinking he won. Ethics is normative. Meta-ethics is not. And I read that and I was like, I mean, okay, but when were we discussing meta-ethics? I guess that was sort of my question. I didn't understand the criticism I was getting there.
I'm going to say, like my teacher in philosophy school used to tell me, when you have a metaphysical versus the physical, you're just giving an excuse of trying to justify what you see beyond.
Yep.
Therefore, metaphysical, you also have normative, a normative behavior of metaphysical. Once you establish the rules of metaphysical, you already are normative. You're establishing that in a normative sense.
Okay. So, just to help me out, just one more time, what's the specific error that Wilson made?
If I don't know if you want to see it again, and I can indicate it, but out of memory, based on what I watched, at the moment he made the claim that normative is an odd claim, he fell into the error that normative, everything that you write down and you codify becomes a normative, but not everything that is moral is normative, or what you perceive as moral is normative. It becomes normative when it's written down and when it's given an orderly sense of how to apply it. And well, then you can argue that legality becomes the regulator of morality.
Okay. I'm trying to follow along. I'm trying to get it. Ox says, yes, all moral statements are normative, but not all normative statements are morals. Andrew had this backwards. An example of a normative non-moral statement would be, you should brush your teeth.
Yeah. And a normative one would be said in Codex XYC tells you that if you do not wash your teeth, this is the punishment that you will receive.
Okay, so that would make it a moral normative claim.
Technically a normative because you already are establishing and what happens when you do not do this isn't what's going to happen to you.
Okay, right on. I like that. Anything else?
Well, it was just that in that sense, but you did great. For me, trying to discuss with people like Andrew or majority of North Americans is extremely different because when I apply the logic that is established in the normative sense in Latin America, it's extremely different from United States for one main reason. We do not use common law nor naturalism to approach a logical sense. The majority of us in Latin America, our structure is based on use positive. That is mainly normative. Yet again.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know enough to contribute usefully, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, and well, if you ever need help in that, I can drop you my email on the back chat and just contact me. I give free classes on how human rights are applied, what are the international documents that are applied, what is the difference between the instruments through the United Nations and the instruments of the Inter-American Convention of Human Rights or the Pact of San Jose. I also advise how to implement that, enforce legislative as well as judicial means to, if ratified through the country, then that becomes, those type of things. So I'm going to drop you my email, and if you want to converse on this type of subjects, shoot me an email, and I can gladly provide you a lot of information and how that is seen separately from United States. So there's my email on the back chat.
Okay, yeah, I see it. I'm trying to, what the hell? Copy. Let me do this real quick because I will forget. I can't remember anything. Okay. I've got it saved. If I ever think of how I would use that or how to work it into some stuff.
If you ever find yourself in another debate about human rights, don't doubt contact me before, because I will give you so many weapons that you will, to cite Trump, you'll never see anything like that. And it's never been done in the sense of the
You'll
law.
get tired of winning.
You'll get tired of winning.
All right. Well, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, that was fun. Okay. I don't remember what was I wanting to? Oh, yeah, the No True Scotsman thing. This is where it starts. And yeah, I didn't understand at all what Andrew was trying to do here.
Well, what you're using is called a genetic fallacy. So you're trying to attack the position based on the source of the particulars. So this is actually what you're making is a fallacious argument.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, the way I described genetic fallacy was different than that. Let me hold on. I was giving an argument from tradition. Now, why the hell did I say that was a genetic fallacy? I think because and Andrew says this correctly, it's where you dismiss something or you accept something based on its source. But the way I've heard the genetic fallacy given before as well is, and it's kind of more of an argument from tradition that because these are the events that happened, therefore those events are good, because so I don't know, whatever, we'll just keep going.
If you were just asking
so.
me, can you just very quickly, and again, you can reclaim your time, but can you just pull up genetic fallacy and then tell us what it says? Second, look at these particulars, and these particular this particular case, you can base solely on its origin or source.
Those things.
And so the thing is that the origin and source, and in this particular case, you're saying, wait a second, look at these particulars, and these particular people did bad things, and so therefore Christian ethics itself is in question. That seems silly. It's not actually attacking Christian ethics. You're just attacking bad things a person did and then saying somehow this relates to Christian ethics. That is quintessentially a genetic fallacy for sure. Now, if you put it in question form, I can still accept it and I'll still answer to the question, even accepting the genetic.
So this is my time and I just let him talk.
Fallacy, which is like, so what? There's laws in Kentucky that I believe you can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. I disagree with that law too. I think it's pretty stupid. For one thing, I want to shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. That's one. But the other thing is that I would not, if I were to say to you, secular ethics were bad. Now, if I were to say they were bad because I can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart, and you disagree, therefore secular ethics bad, you would reject that, right? And rightfully so.
I'm not sure. I didn't follow the very end there that much. But
yeah, if I said to you, this law bad and person did bad thing based.
So I was letting him interrogate me here
based on this law, and then use the justification,
which is a bad part or bad, which is bad on my part.
If I said to you, this law bad and person did bad thing based on this law, and then use the justification, we don't shoot rabbits from trolley carts because we're secularists, and then I applied that to all secularists, that would be the same fallacy that you're engaging in.
So genetic fallacy was already defined. This is just eating up time at this point.
Sure. So I actually think that you'll see that I'm not really doing that, but I have to kind of evolve the conversation. So we can both agree that that's wrong. And I would argue that you would probably say that what those people's positions was wrong from a Christian ethical position. I would wager at least. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So next question would be, do you think that the positions today that the majority of Christians have are all correct? Or do you think to
make sure I have it correct, and then you can tell me yes or no before I answer. And again, you can reclaim your time. I just want to make sure I get it right. So the question is, has Christian ethics evolved? And will Christian ethics continue to evolve so people will look back now and say, hey, we got this wrong? Is that correct?
In a way, yeah.
Okay, well, then the answer is most assuredly yes. There's going to be all sorts of groups that we're going to point to in the future and say they got Christian ethics wrong, for sure.
Okay, so I think we kind of already answered, or you kind of already answered this, but what is it that you appeal to condemn those things I brought up earlier?
Well, I don't know. At this point, I need to understand how this is pertinent to Christians shouldn't be in government. I need to actually understand that, because now you're getting in. You started by saying you don't want to get into a normative framework, and now you're bringing it to a normative framework, which I don't understand.
I never said that. I said I don't want to get into a moral one.
That's a normative framework.
Morals?
Yeah, ought. Those are ought claims, right? You should or should not do. That's normative.
I draw a distinction between morality and norm. So this is what the guest that was up here was talking about. Normative ones, because
I don't understand. Well, how? If you say something is moral, you ought do what's moral, right? That's normative.
No, I don't think you can derive an ought from an is, but in normative we can say that.
How do you just
discuss this?
What? Hang on, help me out with this real
Andrew,
quick.
I'm not being interrogated.
Reclaim the time. Reclaim the time.
Well, I am reclaiming the time, but I'm going to answer your question.
I just need to clarify. That's all I'm asking, is for clarification. How can you describe a thing as being moral without an ought? I don't even understand that.
That's a good question for the cross-exam.
Yeah.
No, I need that clarified now, or I can't. I don't even know what he's asking.
I understand.
So just clarify it quickly.
I understand that moral systems are systems of prescriptions or whatever for taboos or claims of what you should do, like should or should not. But,
yeah, so normative.
Like in a way, but I don't. But well, no, because it's not. I don't think it's the same thing as normative, because again, like what I was talking about earlier in my opening statement was, I can tell you that a compass is better at drawing a straight, or a ruler is better at drawing a straight line than a compass.
Yeah,
I'm not telling you it's morally wrong to draw circles.
Yeah, I agree.
That's morally wrong to draw bad straight lines.
Correct. That's descriptive, but that's descriptive though. So you're making a descriptive claim. This, when you say better, you're not making a normative.
Normative is not equivalent to moral in no way. Yeah, what he's telling me is you can't say yours is normative because mine is normative too, the moral one or something like. I actually don't know what he's doing. He's purposely being obtuse. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've seen him do that before, like with the debate he did with Craig. The stuff he said in his opening statement was so impossible to follow. Not because he was playing 4D chess, but because he was shitting all over the board.
Claim. You're not saying you ought to make a better straight line. You're just saying this does make a better straight line. It's still descriptive. But when you're talking about how should Christians, how ought Christians do X, then those are normative. That's a normative framework that you're diving into. You're talking about oughts then. So when you're talking about descriptors, when you're saying, hey, a ruler does make a better straight line than a compass, right? That is not you should make better straight lines with rulers. These are distinct. So when you're getting into normative claims, though, right, I need you to tell me how this ties into the topic of whether or not Christians shouldn't be in government, because that's your claim.
I'm pointing out I'm going to get there very soon, and I'm going to do that by pointing out a contradiction. Taco, I have 5 minutes. Is my time paused or not?
I've added 7 minutes so far. There's a lot of time being taken over for
I understand.
Other questions.
Well, you can't give him time back. You can't give him time back for me answering questions. You can just give him time back for me clarifying them. That's what's fair.
Yeah, but I think we're now done with the clarification.
I've been very fair with it. It's been more than 7 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
This is Peterson's cross-exam.
That's fine. And
is it Taco? I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Taco.
So here's where I think the problem lies in. You're appealing to a Christian ethic to condemn what those people did in the past. I asked you about that earlier. You said yes. But that's going to happen in the future to positions that Christians hold today. So I don't understand how you can use the Bible or Christian ethics, because people in the future will judge you or other Christians to be wrong using Christian ethics.
Yeah, but can you imagine contradiction? Like here, well, first of all, there's no contradiction, right? A contradiction is a proposition in its negation. There's no negation of any proposition that you've made. All you've said is that's
because
no.
Yes,
what
because
you said
you're going to hold on.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to argue these are the things we should do. These are the things we shouldn't do. That's what slave traders and segregationists said in the past, appealing to Christianity.
That's a genetic fallacy.
But you appeal to Christianity to say that they're false.
Yeah, but what's my proposition?
But your
and
ethic
its negation
will be used against you in the future, meaning you don't have.
I don't know why.
Listen, I got to Christianity.
Okay, listen, so that you understand. The proposition is negation has to be mine in order for there to be a contradiction. You're saying that Christianity contradicts itself. You have to give me the proposition Christianity gives, and then its negation in order to demonstrate the contradiction. What you're doing is you're giving particulars and saying because people make the self-ID claim of X, therefore this system is flawed. Now, if somebody did that back, you'd never accept it in a million years. So if somebody were to say, well, this secularist in communist Russia, which was a secular nation, did the whole Holodomor, therefore all secular ethics are bad, you'd never accept that in a million years, right? Because it's silly. It makes no sense.
I believe in moral progress. Well, not really moral progress, I guess, but I don't know what else to call it. But if you believe that you have an objective and unchanging ethic, then to say yes, and the ethic evolves over time, to me, that screams that you're appealing to something outside of Christianity.
Sure. Hang on, you're right. Hang on. I'm going to give you some charity here.
This is actually, I only need 10 seconds. You're claiming that it's grounded in Christianity, but everybody at every instance has done that. And they use that logic to claim that the other person's ethic was wrong. And that's what I think the contradiction is. So that was a big part of how I designed this. And I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with his rebuttal, because he's saying, well, wait, how come this is a problem for me and not a problem for you? Because you would say, oh, like Stalin or whatever, they were secular and they did horrible things. So therefore, and you condemn them. So there's no such thing or whatever as secular ethics or something like that. But again, the distinction, the difference that I tried to lay out there is that I believe in, that I believe in moral progress. I had it written out in my document, the idea or whatever laid out slightly better. I don't know, can I find it or not? So yeah, I didn't go over any of these, but this is what I wrote down. While secular morals change, we at least believe in moral progress. Christianity doesn't. You believe moral laws are fixed, immutable, and unchanging. I don't have a contradiction. You do. Secular ethics is also built in with means to improve itself, mainly the rejection of absolutes and dogmas. I'm also arguing for political systems that work, not one that is absolute. Christian ethics, historically, have failed. Governments have had to save the world from Christian influences in governments or whatever. So that's the basic structure of the argument and the rebuttal. Maybe it's weak. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, that makes no sense though, because all you're saying is that a person can self-ID with a particular, and therefore everything will be applied to the particular, even if people don't follow the particular ethic. When you're talking about the shared value of Christendom, especially in Eastern Orthodoxy, or here, I'll give you a better example. So fascism is what really allowed for essentially interracial marriage. That was not a thing which was done until basically the Catholic Church in Italy allowed that to begin. Before that, all of human history was basically against any sort of miscegenation. And it doesn't matter what people group you're talking about, they were essentially against miscegenation. And that's what makes it a genetic fallacy.
I saw these comments
you're
too.
taking the history of the time period and you're associating it to the laws of the land and the particulars of the time period, and then you're moving it forward and saying, well, wait, this is what Christian ethics was. It's not. It's not what Christian ethics was, and you can't point to.
Yeah. See, yep, that's the no true Scotsman aspect of this.
Individual
Christian ethics today.
Christian ethics
This is the no true Scotsman fallacy, which is implicit in the contradiction. You're sitting here saying
it's not
they
no
weren't
Christians,
fallacy. Whereas in the future, this was just going to happen again.
No, I didn't say they weren't Christians. I said that I didn't say they weren't. Nope.
Or you said that they weren't using Christian ethics.
Nope. I said they violated them. So here's the thing.
Same difference.
Hang on. No, it's not the same difference. When you use a no true Scotsman, I'll explain so that you understand. When you use a no true Scotsman fallacy, you're misapplying it. If I were to say this group over here, they just weren't Christians and there's absent no justification, be a no true Scotsman fallacy. But if I say that a person follows or self-ID,
I'm already lost. Backing up.
There's absent no justification, be a no true Scotsman. To say this group over here, they just weren't Christians and there's absent no justification, be a no true Scotsman fallacy. But if I say that a person follows or self-IDs an ethical framework and then doesn't follow the ethical framework itself, that's not a no true Scotsman fallacy.
Yes, it is, because you're arbitrarily saying they identify that way, but then you claim, no, you actually aren't. I am, but that'll be used against you in the future. So
that's pointing to particulars in the ethical normative work and saying X person violated those ethics. And they can still self-ID, as in this case, the Scotsman, right? But that wouldn't be a no true Scotsman fallacy. Do you understand the difference there in the particulars?
Okay, there's 5 minutes left, and let's try to answer the remainder. I cannot speak. The remainder of the questions directly and concisely.
Okay, I don't think there are 5 minutes left because my timer was just about to run out. Because Andrew did say like, "Hey, I'm taking over, but you can reclaim his time." But I started my stopwatch at different times.
I added 7 minutes in total.
Well, I think you're going to end up giving me too much time. Like I'm going to try to be fair. I'm going to address what you said, Andrew, and then I had a bunch of questions, but there's only one more I want to ask because I don't want to take up a huge amount of time. That would look unfair. But you lost me on the no true Scotsman thing there, because the issue I'm having here is you're saying that the people in the past, they violated the Christian ethic, but that's what people in the future are going to say about Christians today, and the claims, like political or whatever, that they make, and they ground it in Christianity, and they'll say that there's the violation, or that they violated it as well. That's what I think is the pernicious contradiction in all of this. So
well, even if that fallacy, like even if I granted for a second, just for the sake of argument, that it was the no true Scotsman fallacy, it still actually wouldn't be a contradiction. There's still no proposition and its negation happening at the same time. All that would happen is that you could point out that I made some sort of fallacious argument. Like,
so he's saying it's not a contradiction because Andrew doesn't believe in a contradiction, but I'm saying that the worldview sort of is a, like, I don't know, to me, you can have two people, like if two people say, according to Christianity, slavery is okay and necessary. And then the other person says, according to Christianity, slavery is immoral. That's the contradiction. It's not coming. I'm not saying that Andrew thinks that slavery is moral and immoral. I'm not saying that at all. And I didn't clarify it because I didn't understand really what he was trying to do here. But this is all, I mean, debates are hard because you have to, almost everything you're saying has to be, off the cuff. And you have to interpret what people are saying to you. But I don't think it's wrong of me to say that that is a contradiction. He's making it so he has to explicitly state X and not X at the same time. Not contradiction over a generalization and a false conclusion. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That doesn't really help. I saw PP. Wilson is worse because he seems to think on his feet better to counter cool heads like Planet Peterson, but also uses more crass. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty toxic. Shit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's pretty much all I wanted to go over, I think. You're telling them they violated, but you're ascribing your ethic onto them and saying they violated it instead of understanding that according to them, this is the ethic. But
so then as long as people groups at that time who are Christians also claim that they violated it, you would have no case? Does that even make sense to you?
No, I wouldn't not have a case because it would still the overall, and maybe I didn't do a good job of like outlining that this is the general theme, because what I was trying to do is something kind of weird, which was prove that according to Andrew, Christian ethics shouldn't be in government because it makes contradictory statements. That's the thing that I'm actually trying to do here. So even what he said would bolster my point, because you have them even at the same time making contradictory claims. If the abolitionist and the slave trader both say the Bible says this is what we should do, then that is the contradiction that I'm talking about. And to me, that just screams that what I think is going on here is that they're actually both wrong. That this is according to, Christianity or whatever. Anyways, time is it? 3:00. Oh yeah. Well, shit. Yeah, I was gonna say I bought a kayak yesterday. But I don't have time to go kayaking because I have to do some stuff at 3:30. So plus it's not all that nice out, but it's actually, the weather's supposed to be absolute shit. We're supposed to get a bunch of rain. Yeah, it's supposed to be in the 50s tomorrow and Friday. Saturday could work. Maybe I'll go kayaking on Saturday. Sounds like fun, right? I will take one last question from the audience, and then I'm out of here. Storm's moving in. That's a wild picture. Well, damn. Okay, then. Never mind. We won't take any questions. I'll see everybody maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't decided. I do want to watch that Sam Cedar video, though. So we'll see. Enjoy the outro, and I'll see everybody mañana.